Hi, this is Gila. So, there have been a couple of troubling developments in the world in the past few days. First of all, last Friday, there was a very disturbing ruling from the European Court of Human Rights. An Austrian woman had been convicted of committing an unacceptable disparagement of religion by calling Mohammed a paedophile. Now, frankly, what would you call a man in his 50s who had sex with a 9-year-old girl who was still playing with dolls, had not yet reached puberty, as is recorded in entirely Islamic texts? As well as being a paedophile, Mohammed was also a murderer and a rapist, again according to entirely Islamic sources. Since when is telling the truth any kind of crime? Now, even by the standards of his day, Aisha, the 9-year-old he had sex with, when he consummated his marriage with her, was still a child. And even at the times when it was more normal for girls as young as 12 or 13 to get married, certainly in more royal and noble circles, they had already reached puberty. There is a big difference between 12 and 9. Even by the standards of his day, Aisha was a child. And Muhammad was supposed to be a prophet. Don't we expect better standards from a prophet? Now, if we're talking about disparaging religion, what about the appalling way non-Muslims are described in the Quran and Hadith? Now, for instance, I'm actually Jewish, so describing Jews as pigs and apes, for instance, in Quran Surah 5 verse 60, Surah 2 verse 65 and Surah 7 verse 166 is deeply offensive. It's disparaging my religion. And non-Muslims generally are described in not very nice terms. And even there are calls to abuse or murder non-Muslims simply because of their beliefs. For instance, Surah 8 verse 12, Surah 9 verse 5 and Surah 9 verse 25. Shouldn't the European Court of Human Rights be calling on all Muslims to remove all these offensive texts from the Quran and also those that are in the Hadith as being unacceptable to free speech, unacceptable disparagement of religion? Well, surely freedom of speech should be paramount in Europe. After all, it's attributed to Voltaire, the famous dictum that I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend the death to the death your right to say it. Anyway, unless Islamic sources are lying about their prophet, Muhammad was a paedophile and a murderer and a rapist, and these are facts. And then, of course, there is the terrible tragedy, the appalling shooting of so many Jewish people who were simply worshipping in their synagogue. Now, this particular person was obviously an anti-Semite. Maybe he was a white supremacist. You know, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day what reasons someone has for murdering others in cold blood, for preaching hate against other people because they're different, whether those people are white supremacists, black supremacists, any kind of supremacist, including Muslim ones, who sadly may take the anti-infidel texts of their holy books too seriously. At the end of the day, murder is murder. Tragedy is tragedy. and evil is evil. Thank you for listening.